Oh yeah! Those are 3 compact hybrid SUVs. And to tell you which one is the best, we're gonna have a drag race.
No, we're not. All people care about is MPG.
All people care about is MPG, okay. And to tell you which one's the best, we're gonna drive them at a reasonable speed on a real world fuel economy loop, and then we're gonna tell you which one has the best technology and the most family-friendly features so you can make an informed buying decision.
Perfect.
Okay, you are joining us in motion here on a long fuel economy loop because we think that if you're shopping for one of these compact hybrid SUVs, that it would be fair to say that fuel economy is an important number for you. We've got 3 compact hybrid SUVs on the route with us today. They are the Kia Sportage Hybrid, the Honda CR-V, and the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. Now between these 3 vehicles, we have the top-rated compact hybrid SUV for Edmunds. We have the 3rd highest rated compact hybrid SUV for Edmunds. And then we have the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid here because y'all buy a lot of RAV4s. Now, naturally, you might be asking yourself, what happened to the 2nd highest rated compact hybrid SUV and why isn't that here? Well, that's because that's the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid, and fundamentally it shares a lot with the Kia Sportage Hybrid. The two have the same powertrain, they ride on the same platform, and many of the same features. So anything that we say about the Sportage Hybrid, you can pretty much assume to be true about the Tucson Hybrid. It's just got slightly different styling and packaging, but very similar vehicles. Now, these vehicles don't just have overall ratings. When an Edmunds editor goes to rate a vehicle, self included, we actually have to rate them on over 30 different individual data points, and those get compiled into several main categories. So while the overall score is a great snapshot for the vehicle, every car shopper is going to have different needs. So what we're going to do today is we're going to dive deeper on some of these categories, and then you'll be able to see which of these vehicles might be the best fit for your unique set of preferences. Today, the categories we're going to cover are interior and comfort, technology, including safety technology, fuel economy, how they drive, and finally, cargo and storage. So because fuel economy is so important for these hybrid vehicles, we're going to do that test in a bit of a special way for you today. We have all 3 vehicles out here on the road. We're going to drive them nose to tail, so they're driving in the exact same traffic conditions, the exact same speeds, and covering the exact same distance. And then once we get back, we're even going to fill them up at the exact same gas pump to give you the most accurate picture that we can of their fuel economy, and you'll be able to compare them against each other in equal conditions. We'll start things off here in the Sportage Hybrid, and that's sort of the natural place for us to start because this vehicle is actually our reigning 2-time Edmunds top-rated SUV award winner, and that's not just compacts, that's not just hybrids, that's all SUVs. The Sportage Hybrid is just a fantastic all-around vehicle. It has a modern and stylish interior, plenty of cargo room, great features, and it does all of this at a very reasonable price, something that we can't say about too many vehicles these days. Is it the sexiest choice? Yeah! Probably not. What? But it is so good all around that it really has earned this distinction, and we've been proud to give it our award for the past 2 years. In the how it drives category, the Kia is going to come in second with an 8.0. You're going to hear me say this a lot about all 3 of these vehicles today. The way that they drive, pretty inoffensive. Now, they're not the most exciting things on the road. If we were to do a U-Drags, it might not be all that exciting because it would take them a little bit of time to make it down the quarter mile. But that doesn't mean that these 3 hybrid powertrains don't provide enough day-to-day power, because they all do. But the nice thing about the Sportage Hybrid is that even in its eco driving mode, the one that we're using now, it still has plenty of pep to get you around the city, and you can use it to try to maximize your fuel economy without feeling unsafe and without feeling like you don't have enough power to execute merges or passes. It's adequate to good, and that's kind of all you need in this class. So now we are in the Honda CR-V Hybrid, and this actually had the highest driving score of these three vehicles at an 8.5. Now, what makes the Honda unique is that it's got a slightly different hybrid system than the other two vehicles. Most of the time, this actually operates as what's called a series hybrid. So the electric motors are doing all the powering of the vehicle, and the gas engine just works as a generator to help power those electric motors. Now, that doesn't seem to have hurt how it drives because, again, highest driving score in this group. And that's because, again, not super exciting from behind the wheel, but very solid. Feels like it has a bit more pickup than the Sportage Hybrid at lower speed situations. And I would say that the ride quality is also a hair better and the cabin quieter as well. And that brings us to our third and final vehicle in this test, the RAV4 Hybrid. And in this case, last ends up being least because this has the lowest overall rating, but also the lowest driving score. Now, like I said earlier, it's not like it's offensive to drive. It's not a bad driving vehicle. Toyota has a lot of experience with these hybrid systems, more than any other automaker. So the power delivery is actually quite good and quite even at low speeds. But the problem is that when this gas engine does kick on, it does so very loudly. Toyota kind of likes to hang using electric power as much as possible. And that means that when the gas engine kicks on, it needs to do so with a bit more impetus. So it actually comes in at what sounds like between 2,000 and 3,000 RPM, but at that engine speed, this engine sounds very coarse, very grainy. And what ends up happening is that even though the vehicle itself is probably not much worse to drive than the other two, it just feels that way because of how noisy and how the whole powertrain is at times. It just lacks a bit of refinement compared to the other two vehicles we have here today. So we're back from our long mileage drive. We've crunched all the numbers, and here are the results. The Toyota turned out to be the clear class of this field when it comes to fuel economy. It got 47.4 mpg on our route, and that easily beat both the Kia and the Honda. Now, one thing that I think helped all three of these vehicles achieve such good results was the fact that our loop was run at sort of lower speeds, more akin to city speeds, thanks to some signature LA traffic, and all these hybrids are more efficient on the city than on the highway. One of the things that I like to do with these fuel economy results is figure out what they actually mean for you if you're driving these vehicles in the real world. So let's assume that we were driving 5,000 miles in each of these vehicles. We can actually calculate the cost for that 5,000 miles for fuel. And as you can see, there's not a really big difference between these vehicles. The Kia only costs about $85 more to run over 5,000 miles than the Toyota does. And its interior is so much nicer. It drives so much better. It's got so much better technology. That's a price that I'd probably pay. For this section, we've combined the interior and comfort categories into one score. Coming in first place in this section is the Kia Sportage, followed closely by the Honda CR-V, with the Toyota RAV4 bringing up the rear. First place in this category is the Kia, and just from looking at it, it's kind of easy to see why. This is a much more contemporary, modern feeling interior than what you're going to get in either the Honda or the Toyota, both of which feel very dated in comparison. Now, things that we like about this interior: the ergonomics are fantastic. Even though this screen might look like it's far away, I can actually easily reach it from my driving position without having to lean forward. Something that's kind of hard sometimes on these very wide modern screens. Other things that we like: physical controls for commonly used items. So heated and ventilated seats can both be turned on right here. The one thing that you might not like too much though is this little bar right here. This actually houses both the climate controls and some of the controls for the screen. You flip them back and forth just by pressing this little button here. It's not too bad. You do get used to it pretty quickly, but again, I think a button would be easier for some of those things. Also, things that we like: the back seat, pretty comfortable even for adult passengers, and it has a lot of recline, so you can even take a nap back there while you're on the road. It's easy to get comfortable. Things that we don't like about this interior, number one for me would be the piano black plastic. Now, I personally don't think that it looks very good. You might like the shiny stuff, but the real problem is that Kia sort of coated this whole center console area in piano black. And what that means is if the sun is in the wrong spot when you're driving, it'll actually come right down here, bounce up, and hit you right in the face. Not what you want when you're trying to pilot a vehicle. It's also, you get a lot of fingerprints on it and stuff like that. I understand that piano black might look shiny, but in reality, it's kind of dull. In second place in this category, we have the CR-V, and it came in behind the Kia by just the slimmest of margins, and it does that for a couple different reasons. Number one is I don't think that these front seats are quite as comfortable as the one in the Sportage. You do have this nice contrast stitching, and that sort of speaks to the overall quality of this interior. I would say that the materials are actually a step above the Kia because these are actually real metal knobs and things like that. But what I don't particularly like is how the front here is all black. And this is not just a thing that Honda's doing. This is sort of more of an industry-wide thing. But when you make all these different trim pieces black in different shades of black, it just sort of feels like interior designed by Darth Vader, and you just lose a lot of the detail because it's just this void, and it doesn't really matter how nicely it's styled if it has no contrast to it. Backseat in the CR-V, like in the Kia, and the same as it's going to be in the Toyota, pretty roomy, big enough for adult passengers easily, comfortable for a long trip, and if you're a young family with even 2 kids, plenty of room for car seats as well. What? Bringing up the rear, we have the Toyota RAV4, and if you can look at it, you can just kind of tell why. The RAV4 hasn't been redesigned in a very long time compared to the other 2 vehicles, and as such, things just feel a lot more dated in here. The materials aren't particularly good. Now, I should mention that we have a lower trim level here than we have with the other 2 vehicles, so it's not going to be as nice from a materials and features perspective, but even considering that, the front's not quite as comfortable, the ergonomics aren't quite as good, and in the back seat, you don't even get recline, so that's why the Toyota brings up the rear. Our next category is technology, and that would also include safety technology. In this category, coming in first are the Kia and the Honda, with the Toyota not far behind. Now, all of these 3 are on pretty much equal footing when it comes to safety technology. All the vehicles that we have here today have things like adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, blind spot monitors, all that good stuff. So what this category is really going to come down to is in-cabin technology. The Honda and the Kia tie for the top spot in this category. And I know what you're thinking. You're looking at this dinky screen here in the Honda, and yes, this is the largest screen you can get in the CR-V. And how can this possibly be tied with the Kia and its much larger screen? The answer comes in connectivity. Now, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay come on this vehicle, but not in the Sportage, and really not in any vehicles that Kia offers. So if you want to have smartphone connectivity without plugging your phone in, you're going to have to go with the Honda in this test. Here in the Kia, you get absolutely the best screen setup out of the bunch. As you can see, a very large digital gauge cluster here and a very large touchscreen next to it. Once again, the really only thing holding this system back is the lack of wireless connectivity for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and the fact that if you need to plug your phone in with those things, you're going to need a USB-A cable to do so. So don't recycle all of those. Hold on to a couple for the car, maybe, if you're going to go with the Kia. There are some technology features here that are worth highlighting, though. One would be the surround view camera. Very clear, it takes up a lot of the screen, and it's very easy to see any objects that are around the vehicle. And the second thing, which is cool but kind of a novelty, is that you can actually use these buttons on the remote here to back the Sportage out of a parking space without even being in it. Now in the Toyota, where it falls just a bit behind the other 2 on technology, but not by much, we do like this new Toyota infotainment system that they've had for a few years now. Comes with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay integration, and is generally pretty snappy. Now, the thing that does bother me, though, about the RAV4 is this screen. And it's not that it's small, because both the Honda and Kia also offer smaller screens on their lower trim level. This is the XLE Premium trim of the RAV4 Hybrid, which is sort of their mid-grade trim. And the comparable trims in both the Sportage and CR-V are going to offer you that larger screen as standard equipment on those trims. But here, you're going to have to pay at least $2,500 for an options package if you want to upgrade to the larger screen. And really, there's nothing that feels premium about that at all. Our next category is cargo and storage. And in this one, the Kia once again comes out on top with the other 2 tied right behind it. And a big reason for this is that the Kia has a very flexible interior storage space. That bin between the 2 front passengers, it has cup holders that can actually fold away, opening up a large storage bin that's nice for small items like phones or small bags. Honorable mention also goes to the RAV4, which has a handy small item cargo shelf above the glove box. Neat. An idea that's so good that other vehicles are now starting to copy it. But it's not just interior storage that's important, of course, in these SUVs. A big part of it will also come down to this cargo area. Now, on paper, there's not a ton to separate these cargo areas. If you look at their total cargo capacity behind the second row, you'll notice that the numbers are pretty scrunched together. In fact, there's only a 0.2 cubic foot difference between the Kia and the Honda back there. So those numbers don't really tell you much when it comes to cargo capacity, but what does is something more practical. So that's why we have this nice big pile of boxes up here, and we're gonna see how many of them fit in each of those cargo areas. So we've loaded up each of these cargo areas with these boxes to see how many they could fit. The Toyota fit 11, the Honda also fit 11, but the Kia here, it fit 12, making it our winner. And yeah, I guess the Kia wins again, and I'm getting kind of bored of saying that. All right, so let's bring all those scores back up again. And again, if you are a shopper who has a priority for one of these particular categories, that's why these scores are here, to help you make a good decision. But if we're speaking more generally about the overall place of these three vehicles in our rankings, throughout our testing, their place has become pretty clear, and it starts with the Toyota, unfortunately, down at the bottom. Now, this is not really a surprise. This is the oldest vehicle here, and it's actually due for a redesign probably next year. So if we were to do this test again a year from now, the Toyota might have a better showing as it's able to sort of modernize and update, especially its interior. Up next, we have the Honda CR-V, which has always been a pretty solid entrant in this class. No change here. We still like plenty of things about the CR-V. The problem is that it can't really compete well on value. It is a bit more expensive than the other vehicles here, and you pay a lot, but you don't maybe get the same level of interior refinement or features for money that you're going to get with the clear class of this segment, and of course, our Edmunds top-rated SUV overall winner, the Kia Sportage Hybrid. Now, the Sportage Hybrid once again proved that it's a really strong all-around vehicle. It did well in every single category pretty much, and it's still probably one of the best values in this class, or any class for that matter. And the Kia, once again, really, really strong showing this vehicle. We'd be happy to recommend it to pretty much anyone shopping in this class. Thanks for watching. Yes! Look at what I have created. Oh yeah! Dream! Did it look good?